My name is Whitney Bullock, and that was the Excerpt A from the Houston Youth Symphony 2025 to 2026 Viola Audition, a very famous and well-known excerpt by Brahms, who is just, such a monolithic figure in Western art music. This is, again, from his Fourth Symphony, the fourth movement. And that's probably like the billionth take I've recorded of myself doing this, but you know what? We're just gonna go with this iteration of it. So a little bit about this excerpt. It's from the very beginning of the fourth movement. It's pretty easy to find in most videos. It's not right the first thing that you hear. At the very beginning of the fourth movement, we hear this ominous chorale in the brass, and then followed by some very dark pizzicatos by the strings, and then the violins begin, and then we join in at rehearsal B. And so one of the first videos that came up when I was looking up this symphony was with Andres Orozco Estrada conducting I believe it was the Frankfurt Radio Symphony, and it occurred about 32 minutes into the performance. But you could also just kind of go right to the fourth movement and just be patient and listen, and you will hear it come up. It will even put you in the mood. The melodic line is developed from a bass line of a Bach cantata. Brahms at the time was really rediscovering a lot of Bach's work and studying it, and despite the fact that he was surrounded by the beautiful Alps while he was composing this, and that he had relative fame and notoriety as being one of Germany's best composers of the time, this symphony, all in all, is a very dark symphony. Maybe he was just trying to make it different than his previous ones. Maybe he was feeling faced with his own mortality. We won't ever really know, but I think it's just a fantastic symphony. It's one of my favorites. And this excerpt will appear on so many auditions in your musical life, whether it's professionally or maybe even just at school or for a music festival, that sort of thing. And there's so many different ways to play it. So many teachers and conductors have different bowings and tempos. So I think let's just work together on creating a convincing version for yourself of this excerpt. I mean, here I'm even playing off of my own part that looks like it was probably from when Brahms was alive, but it's not really that old. Anyways, some of my tempo markings I have from other past teachers or past performances I've done of this range from quarter note equals 80. You just kind of like die in those, all of those long slurs and stuff, all the way up to the 95 that's written on the HYS excerpt sheet. So I think that the range in here, 90 to 95, that's on your HYS page, I think that that's a good range. Find whatever in there that's going to work for you, that you can feel that you can play it convincingly, that it's not too fast or not too slow, and that's going to change a little bit for everyone. It even changes for me based on the time of day, the amount of caffeine, whatever it may be. So I even have things written in the margin of my part, like intonation. Oh, we always work on intonation, rhythm, pacing, beauty of sound, all those things. Check all the things. So we have to work on all of those in this excerpt. As far as intonation is concerned, there are many different things that you can drone to. One of the things I like to drone to in this one, it might seem, it works for me. So you should just try it. Might seem like we should put on an E or a B, but I want you to try, well, we'll put on an E. Ooh. So we could do that. Might have to drop out and maybe change it to a B if you want to. it will clash a little bit, but it will elucidate some other things as droning in an E. Did I even drone an F sharp at some point? Probably. But just, explore things to drone to within those pitches that I mentioned. It will help you hear certain things and be able to really make the muscle memory of those intervals in your left hand. Another, when you are also doing it slowly and with a drone, don't feel like you need to do the bowing that's in the part. Like if you're doing it slowly, you can slur in between the notes, just really almost like meditative with how you are listening to yourself. You can feel how the notes connect to each other. I mean, use the fingering that you are going to use, but again, like in a meditative way, just feeling those distances, hearing the intervals, that sort of thing. Saving bow, when you do it slow, please, please, please try to use the same amount of bow that you use when you play it up to tempo. For instance, we don't want to be, because you're not really going to do that when you are playing it up to tempo. Might seem like it's kind of pinching the sound a little bit, but let's focus on like the intonation and things like that when we're doing it under tempo and rhythm, and then we can work on sound production when we're getting it a little faster. There's lots of different fingerings. Just because I do one fingering, please do what your private teacher tells you to do. Maybe you'll get some other ideas from me, but also I have a confession to make. I don't always do the exact same fingering when I do this. For instance, down at measure 64, I think when I ran it through just now, I did a big leap up. I was feeling brave, I think. Sometimes I don't feel brave, and it's okay not to shift up onto your C string. That is a very heroic, viola thing to do. You don't have to do it. You can get the same kind of emotional gravitas staying in first position when you're doing that, as long as you keep the sound rich, keep vibrating. Don't feel like if you feel like that your success rate is not a very high percentage, you can get the same feel if you just play with that kind of dark and serious character. Hopefully that makes sense, or that helps you feel better if you don't feel like that you're gonna really get that C string thing. I mean, it's not written in the part. It's something that has just been passed down over decades and whatnot of viola players playing it. It's really fun. And only play the top notes, please. Those chords are meant to be divided. It does not say to VC, but they are in fact divided. And one before C, please just play the top two notes as well. You'll get a fuller sound. You want to worry about the intonation, and that's what you would do in orchestra anyways, on those two notes. At C, I have been told as many times as I've worked on this excerpt and by conductors or whatnot, not me personally, but in a section, that sort of thing, we don't want to feel really beaty, kind of makes it sound not quite serious. We want to keep the musical line going through that. So feeling it, you could put your metronome in 1, feeling it in 1. Those are all, each of those are musical ideas that kind of keep going, and hopefully you heard that in my playing of it. Let's see what else we have. So we talked about droning, going back and forth between notes. Of course, I have to say filling long notes with their rhythmic subdivisions. Again, you won't really be able to do the right bowing with that, but just to feel it in those moments. Let's skip down to measure 73. It's like we are just getting into the groove of all this lush, dark, kind of ominous playing. And then Brahms just throws a kind of moment at us. And that's how it feels to me whenever I play it. I don't know, maybe you feel amazing when you play this. But this is kind of how we can wrap our head around it. So I'm gonna do it like a little under tempo, but not like so under tempo. And I'll talk at you while I do it. Okay, so we are first going to do those sextuplets on the string, and I'm gonna end before the last two of them. So instead of, I'm gonna get this, the gesture of that till I feel really great about it. And then the last two sextuplets, and then to the next E, the second beat. So those are two different little ideas. And again, we can do it again. And let's make the separation between those even shorter. Excuse me. Wasn't 100% success rate on that, but that helps kind of wrap our head around how to not get combobulated within that. On the 16th notes, not the sextuplets, they should be offish. I have off written in my part, but that's probably because I was never doing them off enough. I don't think it should be a like really pecky spiccato type thing, but definitely brushy, awesome viola in that moment. And again, just breaking things up by gesture. And going through and seeing what is clean, what is not clean. Again, being very meditative, being very present and in the moment when you practice this. And don't just treat it as practicing from measure 73 to measure 76 with a metronome over and over and over again. That will get you maybe like great rhythm, I guess, but it's not going to get into the nitty gritty of the clean string crossings, maybe where you need to do some rhythms to clean it up. Saying cross, 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 cross. Things like that can help you in this moment because it really does come out of nowhere. So when we are going from measure 72, we have an immediate change in attitude. And again, we have to put that in our muscle memory. So do like I did, put a huge space and then start to minimize the space. But then that will help your brain and your body tap into it in a split second. I'm gonna make it a little less. So to me, that seemed like a really long time that I waited, but maybe to you as the listener, it's not that long of a rest that I'm giving, but it was just enough time for my body to get into, I don't know, like not a fight mode, but just something really, a different character altogether. And then when we get to the end, release it all to come in gently on that pianissimo. Some of the fingerings that I may have done initially, lots of shifts and stuff to here, that's on purpose. But again, it's not like, again, written in the part. It's not like you have to do that sort of thing. It's possible to do very clean fingerings. If you want and not really bring it out, you don't have to do any of that. I think what's most important is beautiful playing, rich playing, being in tune, and keeping the melody and the line going with this. And I forgot to say, at B, when you begin this, I mean, really, yes, maybe we're coming from a forte before that, But for you personally, so that you can build this up throughout the excerpt and not like blow through all of your steam in like the first like 6 or 10 measures, as it were, make yourself mentally, emotionally like a mezzo piano plus. But let's think of character words instead of dynamics. So like lush or ominous or dark or something like that, so that we're not starting immediately from this like super virtuosic kind of feeling. It might sound like that in some recordings, but that's because there's a whole section of like viola players playing that together. But if you are trying to build up a convincing performance of this excerpt, don't start at the peak of your sound when you begin this. Hopefully that's given you some things to think about. We'll see if I feel brave going up on the C string again. So let's do at B. I'm going to put the metronome on, what did I have it on here? I was doing it slowly. I'm going to put it on, ooh, am I brave enough to do 64? Let's see how slow that is. Okay, I'm not going to be full volume or anything. It'll be hard to hold some of those things, but this will just help me feel, it'll help me feel the distances between some of the notes, maybe see where I would need to save my bow when it's faster, that kind of thing. So here it is at 64. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. That's honestly a little bit harder to play at a slow tempo than it is to do it in tempo. Just feels very intense, like 100% of the time, and I was also trying not to be intense, but anyways. So a couple of things I want to mention. I feel like this year I'm mentioning lots of things after my slow run through. Okay, something I think goes without saying because I mentioned doing subdivisions earlier in the excerpt, at C. But again, that's not more for like, because you would necessarily have bad rhythm, but it will help you feel that in one gesture to keep it going. Just, doing kind of dotting our I's, crossing our T's, that sort of thing with rhythm. I was not brave for the ascent up the C string, but I did try to make the character the right character. I shouldn't even say brave. It's not about bravery. It's just like, what does our body feel comfortable, like it's going to achieve in the moment? We have to be okay with that. Let's see, I feel like I started to maybe rush a little bit on the 16th notes at the end, and that sort of reminded me, like, once I get there, yes, it is kind of faster note values, but the tempo itself doesn't push forward, and so we're both going to remember that together. Okay, let's see. Let's do this at tempo. Tempo for me usually is 92-ish. Your excerpt says 90 to 95. Let's put it on 94. Actually 93. We'll put on 93. Like a slight click faster than I'm used to, but also not so fast. That's another thing when you were listening to it, like the Andres Orozco Estrada version of it, he really goes along and pushes along through the melody here, but you will hear other conductors in this movement. I mean, it's like really expansive, really a lot slower than that. So again, there's a range as long as everything else is convincing and you are playing in tune, in time, and musically. So here we go with quarter note at 93. Woo! Seems a lot faster now. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. I just remembered what I was thinking. I saw a little note in my music from a previous teacher from back in the day in measure 47. She wrote, relax. And I'd just like to say the first like 5-6 measures seems a little intense, right? But when we get to 47, like there's lots of string crossings and stuff, just like relax. We can relax in the sound and our left hand and our soul even, just to like kind of gear up for the next super intense spot. So just wanted to say that. Thanks for sticking with me. Here we go. Quarter note at 93.